Hi, so today we're going to be talking about academic language, and I'm going to just read this quote really quick. It's from Jeff Zwires, who wrote our Academic Conversations book. Academic language is the set of words, grammar, and organizational strategies used to describe complex ideas, higher order thinking processes, and abstract concepts. So this specific document was created for art teachers to teach them how to teach academic language and to really get a grasp of what academic language is and why it's important within our disciplines to be able to teach that. But it's easily transferable to any discipline. But for me, it was helpful in explaining exactly what it is we're supposed to be doing for the EdTPA, and also why it's so important to introduce academic language in the classroom and really be able to teach students how to use academic language, because it's something that we as college graduates know, but that we don't really think about. At least in my case, I don't really think about what it is that I'm doing. I'm given the task and I dive into it, and I'm doing all of these actions that are defined by these words that we use in the EdTPA as our language functions, but I don't really think about it anymore. But students need to be taught what it is they're supposed to be doing within each discipline. So I'm going to go down here to what it is they're looking for on the EdTPA and describe how that's going to play out in a lesson. So I'm going to start on the right side, the language function, just because it's listed that way on our lesson plans for the EdTPA. So a language function, it's not just a word. To me, when I was looking at the words originally, at the bottom of that blue box, it says describe, analyze, interpret. To me, it's like, oh, okay, that's just things we're going to do with this, historical text or whatever. But thinking about it this way in this definition really made me think about how it needs to be presented to a student, someone who doesn't have that background in the discipline and isn't well versed in being able to read and write in that discipline. So a cognitive action used to perform a speaking and or writing task that has a specific purpose in the discipline. So that to me was like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. I need to teach them how to do this thing that I'm asking them to do, because they might not know how when it comes to the discipline specifically. They might not know how to analyze a primary document. So I'm going to have to teach them how to analyze. I can't just say analyze this, because they might not understand what I mean by that. So there needs to be time taken out of the lesson, and it doesn't have to be a long time, but a couple of minutes to explain exactly what it is I want them to do with the text that I'm giving them, or the video, or whatever it is that I'm giving them. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit here because it gives an example specifically to art, but I find that it's helpful. So right here, today we're going to analyze a piece of art. Let's say the word together. Now maybe that's a little young if we're doing high school, but this second part, when we analyze a work of art, and we can just substitute work of art for primary document. So when we analyze a primary document, it means we're going to take it apart. We're going to learn how the author or speaker put it together. So the writer chose these words and ideas and organized them in a special way to be able to create this piece of writing or this speech for a specific purpose, for a specific artist, for a specific reason. And we're going to break it apart so we can figure out what that writer or speaker is trying to do with their words, with their speech, with their text. So I thought that was really helpful. Like, that only takes a couple minutes to explain, and it makes a lot more sense to students, I think, when it's broken down that way. So I'm going to run back up here to the top. Next is the language demands. So with vocabulary, to me, that seems really easy. It's like, okay, read through the document, pick out the words that might be confusing to them, or that might be discipline specific, and maybe define them out in the margins so that the students can understand that part. But in methods, we were discussing how there are actually 3 different kinds of vocab that we're going to be wanting to put on our EdTPA lesson plans. But I also liked the idea of using these 3 different kinds of vocabulary and thinking about the 3 different kinds of vocabulary when I'm reading through a primary or secondary source document prior to giving it to students, because there might be words that I read straight through and know exactly what it is that they're trying to say, that are used within the discipline, but that have different meaning outside of the discipline. And to me, it's really easy to decipher which definition is being used in that specific text, but a student might not. And so I kind of have to read it with, a new set of glasses and think about how the students are going to be defining those words. So that's the first kind of vocabulary we're going to use, is one that has a different meaning within the discipline, such as state. A student might think one of the United States when you say state, but it could also mean country. Another thing would be class. If you say class and a student doesn't know that you could be talking about a social class or economic class, or it's not a classroom full of students. It can have a very different meaning. The next kind of vocab would be the general academic vocab, which would be the language functions like justify, summarize, things like that. And then the third kind of vocab would be subject-specific words that they're not going to see outside of the discipline, such as bourgeoisie. You're not going to see that word unless you're talking about the French Revolution. So I thought that was really helpful to see the breakdown of the different types of vocabulary to look for within documents in social science or history and government when prepping text for students. And then the other part of language demands is either syntax or discourse. You need to choose one of those to put on your lesson plan. Syntax is the construction of sentences, how things are put together, how questions are asked, how to break that apart, so that they know what specifically a question might be saying, or how to put a sentence together so that it makes sense within the discipline and within their academic writing. And then discourse is just the way that we are speaking or writing in the discipline. Are we writing an argument? Are we having a group discussion? Or it's the way that the material is being written or spoken. So to me, those were the big takeaways that I got, the things that really stood out for me, because those are on our lesson plan EdTPAs, and because I think that having them explained in this document made it really easy for me to understand why it's so important to think about those things when creating a lesson plan for actual students, not just for the EdTPA, where even if you're not going to be making these really in-depth lesson plans, you want to keep these things in mind, because it is really important to a student's success in being able to read and write and understand historical documents and historical texts. Thank you so much.